All right, welcome to another episode of the Francis and Friends podcast. We got, myself, Mr. Francis. I got a nice little new little setup behind me. Before it was the Toronto skyline. Now I got all my medals up there, so you know what it is. But yeah, we got Mr. Tychon joining us today. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, better than ever.
We'll definitely dive into um what you have done. I'm sure people who are watching this are like, oh, you got this motherfucker on here. Um, but yeah, we'll definitely dive into all that. We got this is very historical. We got not many people out there can say they were the first in Canada to do something. You were that, but we'll dive into that in a bit. But how have you been, man? You've been good?
I've been good. Life has its ups and downs, but I've been staying busy, which has been good. Like my life has changed pretty drastically over the last little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, good for
Yeah,
sure.
that's dope, man. That's dope. That's dope. Something that like it kind of hit social media last night. But I found it very funny. All the memes of the Chris Paul stuff coming up, coming on Twitter and all that stuff. Like I don't know if you've seen those memes yet or seen like Chris Paul waking up this morning probably like, why is my name all over Twitter right now? What's going on? He's probably waking up to a bunch of mean texts right now. Shit, he's probably going through it right now. But Twitter's going nuts right now.
I only saw on TikTok this morning. I saw a repost about how Drake is a savage. And I'm like,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
is Drake a savage? And then we see the picture of every man in Chris Paul
Chris
jerseys, and
Paul
we find
jersey.
out, I was like, what? Chris
saying,
Paul?
saying Drake knew from time, and he's just
From every man knew. And that just goes to show, like,
that's
we don't know
crazy.
what's really going on.
Yeah, yeah, that's
We
crazy.
really
That,
don't.
that's that's psychological warfare, man. That is insane. But yeah, man, we'll just jump into a little bit, chopping up with you. But what did you want to do when you were growing up, man? What were some of your passions growing up? Like obviously, that you hooped a little bit, but like prior to that, what were you trying to do? I know that your dad's a comedian and stuff. Like, was that something that you want to kind of dive into?
Never. You know what? Like, it definitely wasn't comedy. You know what it was? My dad was he was funny. He was so charismatic. And I knew that I wasn't like on that level with him.
Yeah, yeah,
So I knew that I don't want to compete with that. Like I don't want to try to be the funniest guy because I'm already with the funniest guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah.
never about performing or being in front of the camera or doing comedy or doing anything like that. I think for me, I always wanted to be like from when I was really young, a lawyer actually. I
Okay,
was really passionate about debating. I'm really good at, seeing different viewpoints and being able to really make an argument, even an argument I don't believe in.
yeah, yeah.
So lawyer was one of them, and teacher was another one. Like I really like teaching people and educating people and helping people. So those are two things I think I really wanted to do.
Mhm.
But as time went on, like I realized law isn't what it on TV. I used to love the show Law and Order and Suits. Like
I
those
still
were
watch that. Yeah, yeah,
I really love. But I realized like what you see on there is not what law looks like
yeah.
in real life. And I
It's
was
not,
like, nah,
huh?
this ain't it.
Yeah, yeah. That's crazy. Like I love all like this like me personally. I love all those law shows. I love Law and Order. I was literally just I just caught up on the last season last night. Like Blue Bloods. Like I love all those shows. So to hear that and then like I actually know somebody who's actually like a real lawyer, and like to kind of go through all that and like kind of pick his brain a little bit. I realized I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's not like the TV as what you're saying. Like the courtroom, what you see on TV and what real life is, it's like night and day. So it's interesting that you kind of brought that up as well. Um, so yeah, so like, what did you go to school for then? You went to school for like education and stuff? They got your master's. So what were you in school for?
Well, I went to school to play basketball. That's
Okay.
how it started. You know those ones where like you're good at ball. You're like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go to school to
Yeah,
play
yeah,
ball.
yeah.
And I think, when I was younger, I really wanted to go somewhere with basketball, whether it was pro. I think there was a time where my aspirations were NBA, and
Mhm.
then I was like, okay, realistically, if I'm not Division 1, my chances for the NBA are a lot slimmer. And I started accepting that, and my body was just kind of breaking down on me. Like I had really bad shin splints.
Okay.
And I was just starting to realize, like, okay, maybe playing basketball for life isn't really for me. And then realizing that I went to university at first, to Laurentian University in
Mhm.
Sudbury, and I
Mhm.
took economics. And economics, pretty random actually. It was a course I was really good at in high school. I mean, in hindsight, I would have taken engineering or business, but
Yeah, yeah.
I was really good at economics in high school. And I was like, you know what? Let me go into this and see what it's about. And it's really about the study of human behavior. And I love analyzing people. So I'm like, if we could quantify and analyze people, that's really interesting. But I'm
Mhm.
like, where's that going to go?
Yeah.
So in doing my economics courses, I took a course called urban geography. And I think this really opened my eyes to what I want to do next.
Mhm.
And in doing that course, I learned about, urban planners and what they do. And they design communities. Like they design like where schools go, where hospitals go, where community centers go. And they really have an impact on shaping a community. And I grew up in such a low income community, and I knew like, okay, this job's very impactful. Like maybe this is something I want to do. And then when I realized that's what I wanted to do, I decided like I want to go to the best school for that, and that ended up being McGill in Montreal. I
Mhm.
applied, got my grades up, focused and really worked towards that. And I ended up being an urban planner for a few years.
It's crazy because like you can't touch on it before. Like in hindsight, if I knew what I know now, I would never went to school for what I went to school for because that not getting me shit right now. Like
100%. Like you always say that. But you know
yeah,
what? You also have to realize that like if you didn't do what you did, you might not be where you are today.
fair facts. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like the journey, nothing will miss you that's meant for you.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey, like everybody's journey is different. So it's like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
had to realize what you realize in order to be where you're at.
Where you're at. That's facts, man. That's facts. I mean, yeah, but the money would have been different for sure. If I if I knew what I know now, I would never would have been. Yeah, I would have switched that shit up. I would have been engineering for sure.
Even something like investing. Like if we knew
Investing,
about
yeah, yeah,
investing from 18, 19,
for sure.
that
Yeah,
foolishness we were buying, we would have just
yeah,
invested.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like it would be like life changing, like, and me now with like with kids going forward, that's something that I'm definitely gonna like try to gear them towards. Like kids are gonna be kids and they're gonna be their own individual people. But that's if I have power, I'm definitely gonna gear them towards like things that actually have like monetary value connected to it, not just like yeah, because like I'm kind of in the same boat because like I originally went to school only for basketball. I hate school. Anyone who knows me knows that David is not a school guy, but I just did it because oh well, you can get a free education, you can hoop, you can stay close to home, all that stuff. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's give it a try. I didn't pay for school, not a penny for school, and that's why I did it. But if I kind of had that hindsight or like my parents are like first generation immigrants to Canada, so
Mhm.
they know nothing about business and investing and like all that stuff that kind of makes the world go around, you know. Um, but yeah, if I had that hindsight, I definitely would have done that because this ain't it.
No,
But
trust me, it's been helpful. Or like, because
sure.
yeah, things aren't just passed down. Like, we're not in a situation where people are just handing us houses and
Yeah,
cars and
yeah,
hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's like, yo, everything that we did, especially being like sometimes the first generation that grew up and was born here,
yeah.
it's like you're starting from scratch. You're starting from the
Scratch,
ground up. You got
legit.
to figure that out,
Yeah,
you
quick,
know?
quick too, quick
Oh,
too.
trust
Yeah,
me.
for sure, quick. But yeah, okay. So kind of talking about your journey and stuff. So you went from McGill and fast forward, man, you ended up on Big Brother. So before we even get to you ended up on Big Brother, how did you even think about like what was that thought process like? Where you're like, okay, shit, like I'm gonna actually try to be on the show. I'm actually trying to do this. Like, what was that thought process like before you even got to the camera?
Wow. So that was actually quite a long process. In the sense that I actually never wanted to be on Big Brother, which may be something you didn't know. I was never a plan of mine, and I had never heard of it really before
Yeah, for
being
sure.
on it.
Yeah.
What had happened was, as I mentioned to you before, my dad's a stand-up comedian,
Hmm.
and when I was still in school, he said to me, he's like, "Yo, you know what way I could really advance my career? Going on television." And he goes, "You know what
Yeah.
show would be fun for us?" And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "The Amazing Race Canada." So I started doing my research. I watched it. I'm like, yeah, that'd be crazy. Like, I'd actually be good at that.
Yeah.
Let's apply. So, we send in a video, we apply, we get called back, don't get on, whatever. The next year, we apply again. It ends up being a season that's only for heroes. So like teachers, doctors, paramedics, like that kind of season. We don't even apply. The next is we apply again. In this season, we get through, things are good, and then guess what year it is? 2020.
Yeah.
What happens? Everything shuts down.
Everything
They're
shut
postponing
down,
the season indefinitely. So it's like that was pretty heartbreaking because it was like, okay, we're about to be on, and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So later on that year, somebody reaches out to me from the production team and says, hey, you should apply for Big Brother Canada. Just throw your name in the hat. I've seen you before. We think you could potentially be a good fit for the show. Like, just try out. Let us know. And I'm like, what is Big Brother Canada? So I come to find out, I watch a couple episodes, and I'm like, you know what? Whatever. Let me throw my hat. Let's see what happens. Like, I had this fear of being on camera. I had this fear of being on television. It was never a desire of mine to be popular, known, famous, like nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
So I say whatever. I'm gonna throw my hat into the ring. I throw it in. I get onto the show. Like, unbelievable, because I'm like, pandemic, there's nothing else to do. I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
Like I had my job, and I just had started a new job in Toronto. But I was like, hey, if you guys don't let me do this, I'm gonna quit. To be honest, I'm like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Why not take it, see what happens?
Yeah.
About, embracing new opportunities. Life shows you certain things for certain reasons.
For sure, yeah.
And this is one of those things where I felt like life was presenting me an opportunity and I needed to take it.
Jump on it, yeah.
So I jumped on it and I ended up on the show, but it was never a plan.
Never a plan for it. That's crazy. So you get that call, make the show. Like, what are your thoughts like when you get the call and you're like, yo, you made it, you're on the show? Like, were you like, oh, okay, cool, or were you like, fuck, let's jump into it head first?
I would say I was pretty nervous. Not
okay.
lie to you, like I was excited but nervous at the same time because I understand the implications when you're Black and you're on television.
Yeah.
I understand that, I was really putting myself in a position.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm putting myself out there, and this isn't just a show where, it's they just tell a story and they stick to the story. This is a show where you don't know what the story is going to be.
At all. Yeah.
You're going to be monitored 24/7.
Yeah.
It's really about you being you because you can't 24/7. You can't fake it all day, every day. You gotta just eventually you're just gonna be real. And that scared me because I'm like, am I gonna say something? Am I gonna do something? Am I look dumb? Am I gonna like, you know what I mean? Like, I just didn't know. I felt a lot of pressure because I know also there's not a lot of Black people on television. So it's like, are they gonna see what I do and it's gonna represent all Black people? Am I gonna embarrass my family? Am I gonna embarrass the culture? Am I gonna like, how is this gonna look? But the other part of me was excited. I'm like, yo, I've never done this before. Who knows what could happen? It'll be fun. Just go in there without any expectations and just have fun.
Have fun with it. So you kind of touched on it, man. You kind of just said you got cameras on you 24/7. Well, from outside looking in, from me as a viewer looking in, and I remember like my girl was talking about it before. She was like, she used to watch Big Brother After Dark, and she's like, she never knew that like cameras were on 24/7. So like outside looking in, are the cameras really on, rolling all the time?
They're rolling, I would say 90% of the time or 95% of the time. I think only times they turn them off is when you're put in a position where you can embarrass yourself or your family, or it's not appropriate for the viewers.
Got it.
But because I believe like Big Brother Canada really tries to protect the house guests as much as they can. More so than other Big Brothers around the world. Like if you watch Big Brother Nigeria, for example,
like
they're exposing everything. Like you're like, whatever you're doing, we're seeing it
out there.
Yeah, like whereas this one is not. They're not trying to be as controversial. It's more so about the story and the show and the competition. Like they really want to keep it like that. and not really ruin people's lives because they understand like you got to go back to your life.
Yeah.
But it's all real. Like it's being like you're being monitored the whole time.
Constantly. That's crazy. So while you're being monitored, like are like I'm so curious to the behind the scenes. Like, are there big camera crews following you the whole time? Like, or is it like inconspicuous where like there's like cameras spread out and like you're kind of just there living your life and you don't really notice the cameras?
So there's a mix of both. So there's camera crews in you don't see them, but they're there. There's definitely camera crews, but you can't see them. Like the way the house is set up, if you watch the show, there's mirrors everywhere. There's probably camera crews behind those mirrors, but we don't see them. And then there's just cameras all over the house. Like I can't remember how many, and they move and they follow you and they're there. So
okay,
you know they're there, but like I think at some point, like when it gets to a point in the season where you're just like,
whatever.
I'm living my life. Like I'm gonna have my conversations. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I think me though, I was still I knew what was going on the whole time. So I'm still like I was still very mindful of things I said and did. Like I know it was always on my mind. Like, oh shoot, what did I say? Okay, make sure like I don't say this.
Like in my head, I'm like, yo, like if I was on that show, like I don't know how I would survive because like I live life without a filter.
Oh, so, I have a filter. You know what? For my job, like I work corporate, so it's like I knew how to come to work and be like, "Hi, how are you? Good morning."
Code switch. Yeah,
so I was very on the, "Hey, how are you?" Like there's things I wasn't doing. Like I wasn't saying nigga. Like that was one thing. I'm like, we're not doing that. We're not
doing that.
You know what I'm saying? Like not here. This is not the setting.
So
that's just like one example of like, I wasn't saying anything that, in my day-to-day life I may say that can be taken out of context and taken
away.
So I was like, nah. Because I say I like to have fun, I like to joke, but there's certain things I'm just like, nah, we're not even going down that road.
Not even touching that.
Not even touching it. Certain words I'm just not saying.
That's definitely a skill. I'll definitely say that. Being able to code switch and being able to kind of morph into different kind of entities of yourself is definitely a skill because you open up more doors that way, like you're able to kind of be presentable to certain different, demographics and people that kind of might not understand, as you said, like a lingo or a term or the context of a conversation that you're having, So kind of jumping into the so Big Brother is a competition. So jumping into the competition aspect of Big Brother, you actually won the most competitions in the house for that season. I think you were a total of, I think it was 4 total. You got 3 head of households. Which is actually like I was reading up, doing some research before, and like Gary, who was on, I don't remember what season he was on before, but he actually went to Laurier with me. And he actually is tied for the most wins with you. The second most, sorry, with 4 wins. Every time you won, you nominated somebody up there. Every time you won, you nominated this person, and you actually evicted her twice. So my question is, from a competition standpoint, was that like legit beef, or was it just part of the competition? Is like, yeah, I just gotta get her out. Like what was the story behind that from a competition standpoint?
You know what? I had so much love for Tara, even as a genuine human being throughout the whole show, like genuine love. The issue was Tara wasn't technically one of my people.
Fair.
So like on paper, like we weren't in the same alliance. She never really had my back in terms of us working together. We never were officially working together. So whenever it came down to deciding who I'm going to get rid of,
it's easy.
I was always looking at, shoot, there you are, it's you. You know what I mean? Like, imagine like you're choosing people to go on a trip with you.
Yeah.
You have all your bridges.
Yeah.
And you have some person kind of your friend, but not really. It's like you got to burn them.
Yeah, you got.
Happened to always be on the outside of the circle, and it wasn't personal. It was just like, yo, we don't have an arrangement. You know what I mean, like, I understand it's frustrating and I keep burning you, but like, we don't have a deal.
Yeah.
That's literally all it was. We didn't have a deal, and I think in the end, when I chose to evict her towards the end of the game, it was a little bit of that mixed with I just knew the importance we had in that moment of. somebody black winning the game. I think it needed to happen, and I think I would have been happy regardless if it was
Going
Braden or
forward.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just a really important moment, and I knew that evicting Tara would guarantee that. Not
That,
to mention, there's a chance she may have beat me. Like
yeah,
that was the
yeah.
other part. I'm like, she could beat me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say that to the viewers. I think I just
Yeah.
emphasized the fact that this is a season of diversity, and I think
Mhm.
it's really important that the winner of our season reflects that.
That last point is kind of crucial because that kind of brought me to my next point was that like when did you kind of know um that like as you said it's a season of diversity, but when did you look at it and say, oh, I have a legit chance of like winning this or being like the face of the person who wins this, like being a black male, who winning this event? Like when did that kind of start kind of processing and being in your mind?
I think it happened once Jedson left the show, and I think it's for two reasons. I really believe Jedson was like my toughest competition in terms of winning the show.
Mm-hmm.
I also knew that, you know, once we didn't win, once like our side of the house didn't win, I was able to still survive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized, okay, there's a high chance I could win this, right? And then once Jedson left, I'm like, okay, there's even a better chance I can win this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we got rid of Kiefer, and I was like, okay,
Oh, shit, now I got a chance.
I'm winning. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no way. Like, if I don't win this, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't, like, I really shit the bed. Like, that's
Yeah,
how I
yeah.
really thought. Like, I can't handle pressure then if I don't win this. Because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
to me, I'm like, I know everything. I'm the most
Mm-hmm.
physical. I'm gonna win this game. Like, there's nothing. The only thing that's not gonna let me win this is the people who may be mad at me who are in the jury. That
Yeah,
was the
because
only thing. I'm like, oh, the jury's salty with me because I know Jetson was in there, I knew Beck was in there. I'm
yeah,
like, I don't know how they're gonna act.
yeah. So
But they were good. They came through.
they
Some
came through
real
at the end. So like, so kind of quickly just touching on that, you had that kind of that love triangle going on on TV. Was that for the game? What was your whole thought process in during that?
I mean, it wasn't technically a real love triangle. I think why it was framed that way because we thought it was a funny joke, and it kind of turned into what we called the isosceles triangle or the sauce. And what really happened was that I think because Beth and I kind of had a fling starting out in the show, but I was very clear that I did not want any type of relationship type of thing going on through the show because I feel like that puts a target on your back and will eventually lead to your demise. In understanding that Beth and I didn't really work out, and then Jedson and Beth started dating, so it was very much like a weird kind of love triangle situation because Beth and I were so close, but she was dating Jedson, and it was just like, and Jedson and I were boys, so kind of like it turned into this triangle, and we thought it was like, let's play on that. It's kind of funny, and we really were tight. Like we were the closest alliance in the house, and I think we're probably one of the strongest alliances in Big Brother history. Like it was a really strong alliance until things got messy. When things got messy, and that's
Yeah.
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
And it turned to it was us versus them versus me, and I'm like and if it ever gets to them versus me, I can't have both of them here. And that's what organization. I'm like, one of them has to go. And Jetson was the bigger threat, so it had to be him.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. So kind of so some some fans and pundits and shit would say that kind of you played the perfect game, like you were never nominated, you're never really in like big danger of being evicted and stuff, and then so that being said, and then kind of towards the end, like hearing your name being called as season 9 winner, like what was going through your head? And what was that feeling like for you, man? Like as I said, you kind of played the perfect game. Like you kind of were, as you mentioned, you kind of were strategic through things. You were kind of thinking through things as the game were going on, and then you end up winning, man. What was that realization like for you?
I think the realization was just, it was surprise, it was disbelief, it was, gratitude, from seeing like my fellow peers accept me and nominate me to win the game. Like I think there was like it was a mix of a lot of feelings. Like there was disbelief because I'm like,
What?
what? Like, I didn't come here to do this. I didn't come here expecting this. I came here like just to have a good time and see how far I could go. But it wasn't like I came here to necessarily win the game. Like that, it's weird that that never crossed my mind in coming in. I'm like, black people don't win this game. You know,
Mhm.
that's kind
Mhm.
of how I saw it. And then as when it happened, it was like, whoa,
Yeah.
me, the first black winner, like
The first.
wow. So there
Yeah.
was that, and then this, my peers just being grateful that, they recognized me as a winner. They saw my strengths. They taught me so much throughout the game, and there was so much love there. Like it was really a full circle moment for me, and like a
Mhm.
life changing one at that. And I didn't even realize at the time. And I'm like, I'm actually getting 100K in my bank account in a
That's
couple of days.
crazy.
Like
Yeah, that's crazy.
what? So there was really a lot there to unpack.
Mhm.
Um, But in the moment, it was disbelief. I didn't really have words to describe it.
As I said, like being the first, like not many people could say, no, I'm the first. No, like you're the first black person, black male, black Canadian to win Big Brother Canada. And that's a high accomplishment. And I said, not many people can say that, man. Yeah, man. So you kind of touched on winning and the significance of winning and being the first black anything to win, Big Brother Canada. So kind of fast forwarding a little bit and kind of also kind of reverting a little bit. Next time we see you on TV, you're with your pops and you're on season 8 of the Amazing Race. I guess I want to say how that full circle moment. So as you mentioned, you started out trying to be on Amazing Race, kind of getting the idea that you're going to be on Amazing Race, and then the world stops, then you're on Big Brother, and you win Big Brother, and now you're on Amazing Race. Like, what was that process like? How did you did you have to reapply? Like, what was that process like for you to be back on Amazing Race with your pops?
No, so technically the season was postponed.
Okay,
So
okay, I didn't know that
so we were casted for that season
already. Okay.
beforehand. And yeah, we just went ahead and ended up doing it. I think my concern was that there might be some issues because I was just on a show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of contract stuff that led me to believe that it would be challenging for me to be on the race,
Mm-hmm.
but it ended up working out. Yeah, that's kind of how it happened. Like it was already supposed to happen.
Already happened. Got it.
Yeah, so it just kind of once they felt comfortable airing and shooting the show, we went ahead and did it.
Okay, okay. So I remember growing up watching it because like kind of like you, like I never really knew what Big Brother was. I watched it a little bit because, like, as I said, like I know Gary. He and I went to school together. So I kind of watched that a little bit. I remember growing up watching some of the Big Brother, like in the U.S. stuff. But Amazing Race is something that I was always fascinated with. I'm always like, shoot, a kid from Toronto, a kid from Scarborough. Like I've never seen any of that stuff, like any of the stuff that they showed and stuff. So I'm like, yo, this is kind of dope. And I actually had like when I was in high school, so I actually had the thought of like wanting to kind of jump on, be on Big Brother, and like there was this other show that was on TV. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like Wipeout. Another show. I was like, yo, like I think I could do that.
Yeah.
I think I could do that. But kind of looking back at the race, which leg you guys ended up finishing 7th place. Like which leg was most challenging for you? Like which
Probably the leg that we got eliminated in.
on that one, yeah.
Maybe that one, or yeah, I would say that one, and that one for a few reasons. Not because the challenges were the most difficult, they were, but I think it was the fact that there were so many other factors at play. So, there was express passes still in play, so teams could advance past certain challenges on that leg. I think because of the fact that other teams were working together and we weren't included in that group, that didn't help the situation. There were teams that had a head start on that leg. That put us behind a bit, which didn't help the situation. And then we had a sign language challenge. My dad and I were one of the few teams that didn't know sign language going into it.
Yeah.
Which made that another challenge. So for that reason, I would say that leg was the most difficult. And they were eliminating 2 teams on that leg.
Yeah, yeah.
First ever time doing that. So not only did we couldn't come last, but we also couldn't come second last.
Yeah, yeah.
So for that reason, I say that leg was the most challenging in that sense because there were so many things not in our favor. The leg that was also very challenging was our leg in we were in Vernon and I don't think we were in Kelowna. We were in Vernon and like wine country or lake country, sorry, in BC. Yeah. That was very difficult because we got so behind.
Yeah.
Like I remember my dad doing the biathlon could not hit this target to save life. And it was snowing, snow's blowing, everybody's leaving, and he's just like, I can't see. Like I remember just being like, and I couldn't help him. There's nothing I could do. I just had to stand there in the cold and be like, God, you got this. How frustrating it is trying to watch somebody finish something and they can't
you can't do it.
They're not doing it, but like you can't help. There's nothing you can say or do. All you gotta do is be positive. And it was like the hardest moment because it's just like snow is coming down. I'm freezing. He's freezing. He's shaking. He's trying to shoot a gun, and he can't see anything. And I'm just like, yo, you got it. So that was definitely challenging, and we had to come from behind and do some slick shit to end up not coming last on that leg. So like that leg, I think that leg was mentally the most difficult. But I would say like the one where we got eliminated there was just so many things against us. Like it was just like, oh my God, like there's so many obstacles beyond just the challenges.
So kind of you kind of touched on it and saying that like, that last leg, you couldn't come in last. You also couldn't come in second last. So as you guys are approaching the end of that race, do you guys kind of feel like shit, this might be the end of the road kind of thing? Or were you guys still pushing through and positive towards the end, No,
we knew. There was like, and when we were driving to the pit stop, there ended up being like a bridge closure that put us on like a 30-minute detour. And at that point, we're just like, yeah, this is over.
It's it.
And my dad still had a little bit of hope, but I knew. Like I was just like absolutely finished.
Yeah.
It was heartbreaking because I didn't want to leave in that manner on a first ever. Hey, there's another first. First ever double elimination.
Yeah. There you go.
I kind of accepted it. Like it just wasn't. We weren't destined to win that show, or that race. That was really how I accepted. That was my takeaway. There was a different lesson in that for us.
Yeah, I mean, like as I said, like Amazing Race is something that I actually like prior to like actually knowing what Big Brother was. Like I actually like had fun watching Amazing Race. And one of the things that I always thought about, like, I always see that, like, the most strenuous moments were, like, when you're, like, traveling or, like, trying to get, like, on a plane or whatever. Like, you're trying to travel. Like, those are the most strenuous moments. Like, what would be, I guess you say, like, your top two moments where you're, like, yo, like you kind of touched on one where, you're in BC and you couldn't kind of help your dad in that moment. But, like, what other moment in there where you're, like, yo, this is, like, tough. This is difficult. Like this is strenuous. Like what was one of those other moments like for you?
Definitely rafting down the Kananaskis River in Alberta. I would say that was strenuous because we couldn't control our raft at all, and we were just going down the river, circling, and we're in last place, and we didn't know how to control it, and that was just very, very frustrating. And we ended up getting soaked. All my stuff got soaked. Yeah. My passport got it was a mess. And then after that, I had to go tie a diamond hitch knot with dry hands, freezing. Like I'm like, this can't be it. Like this is awful. Like I feel horrible. I want to go home.
Yeah.
The moment in there, like I just want to go home. Like this, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
This I hate this.
That's crazy.
And it was
what a double hitch knot is.
Listen, I remember the guy was just showing us, but he couldn't say any words. He would just go through, loop it there, under this way, back this way, up through this, and you had to go back and replicate at your station what he was doing.
Yeah.
Run back to like your station and make the same knot he was making in reverse. So like, what is this, man? Like, what did I do to deserve this?
Yeah.
Like, and you're not eating all day. Like, you're just on the move. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
It's stressful. Like, 100% the most stressful thing I've ever been a part of.
I I don't doubt that. Like watching it, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I remember other season, other episodes. I watch people like being at airports and being like left behind off a flight and like shit like that. Just like things that you can't really control, shit like that, and they happen. You're like, yo, like I don't know what I would do. Okay, so just kind of fast forwarding, you kind of touched on Big Brother, touched on Amazing Race, kind of touched on you kind of being the first, and many things. I want to kind of talk about life after the TV. What has that been like for you, man? Like you kind of mentioned that when we started this, you mentioned how things have changed. Like what has that been like? What has that looked like for you?
Well, it's why I say it's changed so much is because I quit my job from being an urban planner
Mm-hmm.
and pursued a different direction, one of entrepreneurship and one of kind of, figuring out my journey.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I would say it was so different because I went from being corporate 9 to 5 to straight entrepreneur. So in that sense, it was very different. And life after, television, especially the first time, like Big Brother was interesting. Like it was very I obviously felt like a sort of a celebrity in the sense that, everybody knew me on the
Yeah.
streets and was saying hi, everybody wanted pictures. Like that was very different to me, not something I was used to. So that was an interesting moment because I didn't understand to what extent the show, like I didn't understand like the show was that big
Yeah,
to
yeah.
people. So I was just like, oh shoot, like
It's the
y'all
thing.
really watch this.
It's a thing.
And in doing that, it was like, okay, what's next for me? And I think that's when I kind of, started consulting with people who were on the show before
Mhm.
and kind of getting a pulse in the room, like what should I do next? And that's what kind of led me to influencing.
Mhm.
So, I started off doing like Instagram and then I got onto TikTok and, YouTube Shorts now and really started, wanting to make a difference and spread my message and really start, having an influence on the greater world because I definitely had that on the show. So I was like, okay, how can I continue to spread my message?
Mhm.
And in going on this journey, I also realized that, I have a specific message I want to spread. And it's really about, I think mental health became one of my big pillars just because of how I was feeling post show.
Mhm.
I think I really had an epiphany moment when, I was at the highest point or supposedly supposed to be the highest point in my life. And I
Mhm.
felt this feeling of emptiness. Like I just had won $100,000. I
Mhm.
just, won Big Brother Canada. Everybody knows me. You would think from looking outside looking in that this is like, yeah, this is the best point in my life. And I remember just feeling empty inside. And I questioned, like, if I'm feeling this way, what are others going through who have less? What are others going through who are living paycheck to paycheck or don't have their parents in their lives
Mhm.
or, don't have a roof on their head or whatever. Like, it made me think on that bigger scale, like, I have to be grateful for the things I do have, but I also have to speak on, mental health because this is a thing. If I'm where I am,
Mhm.
I know that nobody's invincible to it, right? Maintaining that and taking care of your health is really important, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the message. Once I understood that, I'm like, okay, I have to speak on this because I can't go out there and pretend to the world that I'm good and that everything's okay.
Everything's
Like
okay.
I have
Yeah,
a bigger purpose and a bigger message, and I think that's kind of what drives everything I do now. Is that my purpose now is to be a messenger and to try to help people and influence communities and help others reach their potential and spread a message. And that's really what I've been about. And it's been working so far. And I can see like I'm gaining traction. I'm growing, I'm reaching audiences, I'm having great conversations. I'm really in a space that feels like it's the right space for me to be in.
that's dope. I mean, like kind of touching on the mental health part. Like I follow your Instagram and stuff. Like and like I seen like just the other day you're on a mental health platform and you're kind of speaking to that. Like what was that experience like and like what was that all about?
It was another full circle moment. So like, yes, like I said, I used to work for the government and
Yeah.
I was asked to come in to speak to government officials on their lunch and have a panel discussion about, men's health in November and what it's like as a black man managing my health and managing my mental health in relation to, trauma and
Yeah.
all the other things that you face growing up Black in Canada.
Canada,
And I had
yeah.
the unique opportunity to go in and really speak about my experiences, like what it was like growing up with my parents and growing up with my grandparents, and being told that you're not allowed to feel like you're not allowed to express your feelings. You just have to get through things, and you got to work twice as hard as someone white, and you're going to deal with the racism. And like I started talking about all the different weights that are on us
Yeah.
as Black people, just trying to navigate through life, and that it's very heavy,
For sure. Yeah.
and that just it impacts our mental health, and it comes out with in different people in different ways. Some people it's fear, some people it's anger, some people it's different to
Yeah.
everyone. So I really went in there and told that story about my life and how why I'm on this journey right now. And I think it definitely was very impactful.
No, I mean, no, that's something that I talk to people quite often about trauma, like and like being a black male originally from like I'm originally from Scarborough, like I'm from Galloway, and from like those that know that like I'm from the trenches, like I'm really from. Drake has a song. He has a song called Pop Star. He's talking about 4301. Like I grew up in that building. Like like I've been there, and I've seen things. I've been around things. All that stuff. And then moving to Alberta and like being a black like a big black male in Calgary, Alberta. Like there's so much trauma that is associated with um all of that, and it's like people from the outside looking in don't see it as trauma. They're seeing it as, oh, it's just another black kid or another black dude out here. So you kind of having the ability to touch on or talk or speak to the government and in that space as a black male and kind of speaking to the traumas that associate to that is like as dope, and that's good for you, man. Appreciate that for sure, because that does more for um not only yourself but like just like black men in this space and black men in general, yeah, speaking towards that trauma.
And it's a space we're not often in. Like, how many
Yeah.
Black influencers do you know? How
Yeah.
many times have you gone to a seminar on government and seen, a Black man like myself and where I come from? I would never have imagined that I would be able to talk to an audience that I was talking to. Like, we're talking like ambassadors.
Yeah.
We're talking like this is federal government in Ottawa. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I never would have thought I would have that opportunity just in coming where I come from.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. Well, I will say this, man. I appreciate you jumping on here, chopping it up with me. This is a Friday afternoon. I definitely appreciate the time. I'm trying to stay warm out here. Like I'm out here in Calgary now, and we have like feels like -40 right now.
Yo,
Crazy.
I lived out there for a bit.
Yeah.
I live in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Listen, the weather out there, I'm good.
Yeah. It's different, it's like, yeah, it's insane, and like the weather hits you at times where you're like you don't really expect it. Like you'll like one day you'll be outside, it'll be like +15. You stay home for a day, and then you go outside like, yo, why is it -30 outside? Like what? Like what are you really on right now? It's
Yeah,
crazy,
it is
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, another episode of Francis and Friends. You got Tychon on here. Appreciate you joining us, man. Anything you want to say to the viewers before you head out, man?
So follow me on Insta, TikTok, YouTube, whatever you want to. It's Tychon, Tychon X Carter.
All right, yo. Appreciate
Boy.
y'all. We're out of here, man.